Before the history of each country around the world, there was the birth of civilization, and before that, there was the birth of mankind and life. The story of the first Earth, the first life, and the first mankind. In this video, we look at the macroscopic flow of history, from the birth of the Earth and the birth of life after the Big Bang to the emergence of mankind and civilization. 13.8 billion years ago, at first there was a Big Bang. Thus, one day, 9 billion years after the universe was born, the solar system was born in a giant cloud of dust and gas. After the birth of the endlessly blazing sun, the third planet from the sun becomes the Earth. This was 9.2 billion years after the birth of the universe, and 4.6 billion years from now. About 100 million years after the birth of the Earth, a huge planetoid quickly flew in and collided with it. This collision tilted the Earth's axis, ripped away some of the Earth's material, and sucked heavy materials such as iron into the Earth. If we could see Earth at this time, we'd think it was hell. Because there was nothing but burning things. Volcanic activity heated the Earth, and as time passed, the mantle and crust formed. Most of the water existed as a gas, but it was in a liquid state in low-lying regions and low temperatures. Rivers and seas were formed on such a burning planet. 600 million years ago, the Earth's mild climate continued, and the evolution of life accelerated. The mechanism of origin of life has not yet been clarified, but what is certain is that one day, 3.8 billion years ago, the common ancestor of all life appeared on Earth. Of course, this first ancestor would have been a very humble, simple primitive cell. However, the birth of life was a very important event not only on Earth but also in space. The Phanerozoic is the era in which this life has increased. The Phanerozoic refers to the era from 570 million years ago to the present, and in detail, it is divided into the Paleozoic era, the Mesozoic era, and the Cenozoic era. At the beginning of the Paleozoic, a very important event in Earth's history takes place. This is the Cambrian explosion. A large number of fossils of various types of animals from this era are found. Where did these Cambrian creatures suddenly appear? The ancestors of these creatures could not be found, and Charles Darwin was well aware of this problem. There are many hypotheses for a scientific explanation in this regard, but there is no explanation that can be said for sure yet. The Paleozoic era is the first and longest period of the modern era, spanning from 570 million years ago to 250 million years ago. The huge sea blocked the scorching sunlight and ultraviolet rays, and countless animals with shells and frame appeared. The representative creature of this early era is the well-known trilobite. Then came the vertebrates and fish, which filled the sea. Continents that appeared above the sea repeated uniting and dividing for a long time. At the end of the Paleozoic era, a supercontinent called Pangaea was formed, and sea life came up on this supercontinent. Life could rise above Pangaea thanks to the ozone layer, which protects life by absorbing ultraviolet rays from the sun. However, the creatures that prospered explosively became extinct rapidly in the Permian period at the end of the Paleozoic era. There have been 5 mass extinction events on Earth, and this extinction was the third largest. This event, which occurred 245 million years ago, wiped out 96% of all life on Earth. The cause of extinction is not yet clear, but it is speculated that there were several complex factors such as volcanic activity and sea level rise. After this mass extinction, the Mesozoic era begins. This is the time from 245 million years ago to 66 million years ago. It is divided into the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods. As you might have noticed from the name, this is the age of the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs evolved from the few surviving reptiles after the mass extinction. Around 180 million years ago, Pangaea split. In the northern hemisphere, the continents of Laurasia, corresponding to Europe, Russia, and Asia, were formed, and in the southern hemisphere, continents corresponding to present-day Africa, South America, the Indian Peninsula, Australia and Antarctica were formed. Peaceful time continued, but 66 million years ago, at the end of the Mesozoic era, a huge meteorite fell near what is now Yucatan, Mexico. Traces of this impact still remain, with a diameter of 180 kilometers, and the size of the meteorite that fell to Earth is estimated to be 10 to 15 kilometers. What happened to Earth after the meteorite fell? Massive amounts of particles and water vapor rise up into the sky, obscuring the sun. The Earth has rapidly turned into a dark world, and all plants and microbes that cannot photosynthesize die. In turn, herbivorous and carnivorous dinosaurs slowly disappear. A single meteorite impact wipes out 75% of all life on Earth. This was the last mass extinction event of 5 mass extinctions. As the planet gradually escaped the impact of the meteorite impact, The Cenozoic began 66 million years ago. This is the age of mammals and birds that survived mass extinctions. Mammals, which were pushed by dinosaurs in the Mesozoic era, spread rapidly over the Earth in the Cenozoic era when dinosaurs disappeared. Some of the mammals returned to the sea and become whales, while others evolved into apes. And 6 million years ago, the ancestors of mankind were born. The common ancestor of the human race seemed indistinguishable from other apes at the time, but after a long time, the branch of evolution that separated from him gave rise to numerous individuals and produced very unique descendants. It is not easy to oppose the theory of evolution today. Both those familiar with science and those not familiar with it find evolution to make more sense than creationism. However, it is a complete misunderstanding to think that amoebas are a primitive species, and that mankind is the most perfect being that has reached the end of evolution. A monkey does not become a man, nor does a man become a monkey. Each species is just branching out and following its own evolutionary path. Among the normal groups of apes that roamed Africa, there was one individual that didn't look very different from the other apes. This individual was the common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees in the distant future. In fact, it is a widely known fact that chimpanzee and human DNA sequences match 97%, and they have similar social characteristics such as group life. From this common ancestor, humans very slowly diverge in evolutionary branches. Australopithecus, the oldest and most primitive human, appeared 3 million years ago and inhabited the African continent until 500,000 years ago. They looked halfway between today's humans and monkeys, were highly intelligent, and had exceptionally developed thumbs that allowed them to make and use simple tools. 1.5 million years ago, the second human, Homo erectus, appears. Compared to Australopithecus, the brain capacity increased significantly to about 1000 cc. They lived in caves, spoke low-level languages, and are believed to be the first humans to begin moving. So, their fossils are found all over the world. Homo erectus made and ate highly absorbable food while cooking on a daily basis, which is the foundation for humans to have a large brain. And time passed 600,000 years ago, Homo heidelbergensis appeared. They are believed to be the common ancestor of Homo sapiens and Neanderthalensis, and they made tools and used fire on a daily basis. About 200,000 years ago, a third human race appears. Neanderthalensis and Rhodesian belong to this group. In particular, the appearance of Neanderthalensis seems to be no different from modern humans. Although it had a muscular body, an unusually large nose and an underdeveloped jaw, it had a high intelligence, a language and symbol system, and a custom of burying the dead. They flourished on Earth until about 30,000 years ago and developed a remarkable Stone Age culture, but then quickly disappeared. About 40,000 years ago, the final stage of humanity, Homo sapiens sapiens, appeared in Africa. Their brain capacity reached 1,300 to 1,500 cc, and they were proficient in using language and tools. Culturally, it belonged to the Upper Paleolithic culture. Until this time, several human species such as Neanderthalensis coexisted on Earth, but when the new human species, Homo sapiens sapiens, spread throughout the Earth, the old human species became extinct. They spread to Europe and Asia about 40,000 years ago, and settled mainly by moving along rivers and coastlines. The important point is that Australopithecus did not become Homo erectus, then Neanderthal, and then sapiens. Each kind is to be understood as a key point emerging in a complex chain of divergences and interminglings of different species and lineages. 10,000 years ago, new people developed Neolithic culture in various places, settled or nomadic, and devised various ways of life. 10,000 years ago is a long time, but in terms of evolution, it is a very short time. Their physical and mental capacities would not have been very different from ours. 9,000 years ago, people began farming in the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East. Production increases, and population grows exponentially. Culture is born in the repetitive pattern of life called farming. The concept of private property arises, and classes and social institutions arise. Humanity has now moved away from nature into the world of ideas called society. This is how civilization was born. There are 4 of the oldest civilizations known so far. These regions, which are called the world's 4 major civilizations, have appeared in various parts of the world since around 7,000 years ago and are called Egyptian civilization, Mesopotamian civilization, Indus civilization and Yellow River civilization. All of these were Bronze Age civilizations, used written language, and developed huge city-states. Geographically they were all based on great rivers. The large rivers were good for securing drinking water, enabling continuous farming, and active trade took place along the river. The oldest civilization known so far is the Mesopotamian civilization, which means the land between two rivers. The Aborigines of this place have been living in villages around the southern region for a long time, and around 7,000 years ago, the Suber people came to this area and mixed with the Aborigines to settle down. They built reservoirs to stop the flooding of rivers, and built ziggurat in each city, a gigantic structure that connects the heavens, the gods, and the earth. The Nile River, the birthplace of Egyptian civilization, has always been rich. The Egyptians were able to predict regular floods, which led to great advances in geometry, astronomy and architecture. The great power of the pharaoh, who was considered a political king and son of the gods, led to the construction of the pyramids, the greatest structures of mankind. Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro were the largest cities of the Indus civilization, which developed in the Indus River basin 5,000 years ago. Both cities were huge planned cities built of baked bricks. The Indus civilization shows the aspect of an international city where people of various races live together while actively interacting with Mesopotamia through the sea. However, these vibrant cities were destroyed by the Aryans from the west around 4,000 years ago. The Aryans conquered the natives and spread their religious and philosophical scriptures, the Vedas. Finally, the East Asian Yellow River civilization was formed in the Yellow River basin about 4,000 years ago. People in this area grew millet and sorghum, and raised livestock such as dogs and pigs. Among the small villages and villages, some grew into city-states. We imagine that people thousands of years ago at the beginning of human civilization lived a somewhat uncivilized and primitive life. In some ways, this idea may make sense. However, it cannot be said with certainty whether today's mankind is wiser than the ancients and is living life with greater value. They had the same anguish and desires as we do today. If you were satisfied with this video, please like and subscribe, and I will come back with a more fun and informative video. Thank you.